Hey besties, it's me Amelia. Welcome back to my channel. Today I kind of just wanted to talk about my reading in 2021. I feel like I barely made like monthly wrap-ups of what I read that month, and I barely made book reviews. I feel like I made one, which was A Court of Silver Flames, because it was so bad. It was just not a good year for my channel. So I thought that since like you guys don't really know what I read and my favorite books, my least favorite books, I thought that I would just make a video talking about all of it. So every year I set a Goodreads challenge of how many books I want to read that year, and usually it's around 50 or 55, and usually I reach it. In 2021, I decided that I wanted to work more on writing my book rather than reading, so I only set it at 35, and I didn't even reach that because I read 24, which I think is the least amount of books I've read since like grade 5, to be honest. But I did finish the first draft of my book, so that is so amazing, but it kind of sucks. And I started draft 2 yesterday. Yay! So I'm gonna talk about every book in order of like the first book I read to the last book that I read in 2021. I probably won't get into the plot of all of them because that will take a really long time, even though I only read 24 books. I mean, I'm proud of myself for reading 24 books because I wrote a book, but I don't know, usually it's more. So, the first book that I read in 2021 is Sancte Diaboli Part 1 by Emma Jones, which is book 6 in the Elite Kings Club series. It's kind of like a high school dark romance, hate to love sort of series. This girl is basically thrust into a world that she knew nothing about, something her family is involved in, and there are like other guys at her new high school whose families are also involved in that thing, but they don't really want her to be there. It's very dark, so keep that in mind if you want to read it. I wouldn't say it's like the best dark romance series. It is good enough to like make me read all the way to book 6. Yeah, it's kind of addicting, I would say. The series kind of like goes through 3 different couples. I'm on book 6, so that's like the 3rd couple. And book 4 and 5 was like the best couple. Love it. I gave the book 3 stars. It wasn't like the best book in the series, but it was okay. I don't know if I'll read book 7, which is already out. Next, I read A Court of Silver Flames, which I feel like we all know my thoughts. I made a whole rant review. You can check that out. Don't get me wrong, I love Nessa and Cassian, and they're my favorite ACOTAR couple, but while I like them, I think A Court of Silver Flames plot was the weakest of all the books. It was just terrible. There wasn't even a plot. I mean, there was, sure, but it was like badly done, and what happened towards the end was just not believable. And I know that like fairy books are not believable. People on Twitter are always like, how do you expect fairy books to be believable? They're fairies. You can have a book about fairies and still be kind of believable, actually. The whole like mountain girl power thing, if you know what I'm talking about, was just not for me. And you can go watch my review. It was just not for me. I gave it a 2 stars, so the next 2 books I read, and I totally didn't dress up to match the series, but so this is Kill Switch and Nightfall, which is books 3 and 4 in the Devil's Night series. Now, I talk about this series all the time. I reread this series many, many times, but this time I did something different. So all the books are about a different couple, but the guys in all 4 books are like best friends. They're in the same like group of friends, and the chapters alternate between like past, present. Like every chapter it switches, and every time I read the series, if we're in the past and something exciting is happening and then it takes us to the present, I'm like, no, I want to go back to the past. Or sometimes we're in the present and suddenly we're back in the past, and I'm like, no, like the present is so fun, I want to stay in the present. So this time when I read these 2 books, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm gonna read the entire past and then I'm gonna go back and read the entire present. And that was honestly such an experience. The past shows like the couple in high school, and kind of what happened between them to lead up to their current tension in the present. Reading the past first completely changed my experience because I just got to read like the whole amazing high school section first of, you know, how they met and their story blooming, and then we get to like what happened between them, and then we get to their present of like them hating each other now. In a way, it was kind of almost better. I think the author's choice to put the past, present, past, present, past, present every chapter is the best choice for the book. But if you've already read the series and you want to reread it, I would really suggest trying like the past and then the present method. It's just like, I don't know, I just love it more for some reason. And I tried that with books 3 and 4, so I'm gonna try that with books 1 and 2 later, which I have reread all these books like 10 times, but I feel like every time feels like the first time. You can see how happy I am talking about this series. I think like this is what I would save in a fire. Actually, that's not true because my like area was on fire, and the only thing I saved and brought with me when I escaped was my Unravel Me arc. Also, all of the books are signed and personalized with me, with my name. Next, I read the Mattis Obsession and the Swedish Oblivion, which are books 1 and 2 in Daniel Laurie's Maid series. They're mafia romances, and I really, really love this series. I think in 2021, I started reading more mafia romances. My best friend Monique, hi Monique if you're watching this, she has been reading mafia romances for like years, and I always kind of made fun of her, not in a bad way, but like I never did because I wasn't into like gangs and like killing. But I'm really glad that I started to kind of dive into mafia romances. It is quite good, and I think I read a couple more throughout the year that I'll talk about later, but I think that the Mattis Obsession, it was just amazing. I reread it twice in 2021 because I just had to read it again because I love Christian Alistair, and I feel like the series isn't as like brutal as most mafia romances. At least that's what I've heard from people who read a lot of mafia romances, which isn't me. I actually read book 2 and then book 1 because I heard so much about book 2. They're about different couples. I heard so much about book 2 and I just wanted to read it. So I read book 2 first and then I read book 1. But they kind of take place in the same timeline, so it doesn't really matter. But if you want to read it, I would suggest you start with book 1 because... And next I read the Atlas 6. I feel like Twitter talks about the Atlas 6 all the time. And I was just like, okay, let me read this dark academia book. It's basically about these 6 people. They're recruited by someone named Atlas to join the Alexandrian Society, but only 5 people can join it. So they all gather at this, like, I can't remember, like a mansion or something. And they try to work on their powers, and 1 is going to be eliminated because only 5 can be chosen. So you kind of just read through the stories of these 6 people. It's actually self-published, and I think it's become so popular that it's getting traditionally published. It's releasing in March again. I think that at least the self-published version that I read, it was fun, it was good, but I feel like it should have been edited a lot more. I feel like there were pages and pages of monologues and unnecessary like concepts and theories that were never actually applied and never contributed to the plot in any way. But I really enjoyed seeing like all these theories. She would talk about like philosophical discussions, and I was very interested in them, but it kind of led nowhere. I think this book could have been 5 stars if it went through more editing, but in the end it just kind of left me confused. And also I'm very confused by the romance, and I was just very confused. Like, I literally don't know who's gonna end up with who, and usually I like to know those things. But I am very excited for book 2 to like explore more of their relationships. I think a lot of the characters, especially Tristan, were really interesting, and Nico. Yeah. Overall, I gave it 4 stars. I think the atmospheric dark academia setting was very fun to read, and I think the concept was very promising, but as time passed, it started to fall flat a little bit. I think it needed a little bit more editing, then it would have been perfect. Next, I read Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco, which I'm just going to combine with Kingdom of the Curse, which I read a couple months later. So Kingdom of the Wicked is about Amelia. She is a witch, and her twin sister, who's also a witch, dies, and witches just keep mysteriously getting murdered. So she summons a demon to help her find out what's going on, but she accidentally summons the demon Prince Wrath. And I guess it's like a young adult historical fantasy romance. Is that a thing? However, book 2, Kingdom of the Curse, is new adult, so keep that in mind. Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this series. I love Wrath. There are like 7 demon princes of hell. Wrath is one of them, and I just loved meeting the other demons. The other princes. They're all kind of horrible. But it was just so much fun. I think I gave both books a 4 stars on Goodreads. However, I feel like book 2, like the plot itself, the main character Amelia was a little bit of a passive character. Like, people kept telling her things instead of her like going to find things out, I guess. Next up, I read Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark, which is another mafia romance. Oh my god, next I read the best book of the year. So the book I read was Gothichana by Runix. I thought that this was the best book I read in 2021, even though like maybe like objectively it isn't, but I just had such a great time. It takes place at an ancient castle, which also acts as a university. There's a girl named Corvina. She kind of loses her mother and she's all alone, but one day she gets an invitation to attend Varenmore University, which is an invite-only university. You can't just like apply. So she goes there because she has like nothing else in her life. And what she finds is a secluded ancient castle, like on top of the mountains. And the vibes were just amazing, you know, like the dark academia atmospheric setting. And there's like this curse at the university where every 4 years on a specific day someone dies, and she goes there on like the 4th year where someone dies. So it's like there's this air of mystery in the book, death and like murders. And the best part about this book was the romance, because there's this guy named Vad Deverell. He's actually her professor, her English professor, but not in a creepy way, because he's only a few years older than her, and he's also a student there. I think he's doing his master's, but he also like teaches at the same time. And it's amazing because when Vad, the love interest, was little, someone told him that one day he would find a girl with purple eyes. And Corvina Clem, she goes into his class to listen to like the English lecture, and he's teaching. I'm not like spoiling anything. I just love this scene. But he's teaching, and then he like looks at her where she's sitting with the rest of the students, and she has purple eyes. And he's just like, and she's like, and all the students are like, and he's like, I'm not sure if that's how it went. That's how like I felt like it went. And they have this like teacher-student banter. Like she would answer questions and they would have like banter, and I just love it. And he would also be like, stay after class, and I'd just be like, yes. So yeah, I just love this book so much, and the author is coming out with a special edition hardcover, which I cannot wait to buy. I think everyone should read this book, and I think what's insane is that this book was written in 2 weeks. I've been working on my book for 5 years, and it's not even as good. And the author is coming out with Arcana, which is like, I think, a prequel novel about the university. I am so excited. The sun is setting. I apologize for the darkness and the video quality that's coming with the darkness. I had to start filming a bit late today, because my mom got like scammed by someone pretending to be the police, and I had to like help her. When I was in film class, my professor said, if you're ever filming a video, like, don't mention about the lighting ever, because it will take the audience out of the video. Clearly I didn't learn anything from that class. Okay, I'm just gonna briefly talk about this book because it's not worth my breath. I read The Monster by L.J. Shan, which is the third book in the Boston Bells series, and it's not that it's the third book, it's the worst book, but they're all very terrible. I made a rant review for book 1, which is The Hunter, and then the next book, I don't remember what it's called, it was bad. Oh, The Villain. Oh, it was bad. And then the third book, The Monster, is also bad. I think they're all about like the same, like they're like brothers or something. Oh my god, it was so bad. It was like kind of addicting. I might read book 4 even though I hate this series, but like it was bad. It can be addicting and bad, like drugs. I used to love L.J. Shan's romance books. I don't know what happened though. Besides the fact that she bullies other authors and like sabotages their career. I shouldn't have said that. It's true though. It's true. Maybe it's karma, but I don't know. I think her books are getting worse. But it just feels like I'm reading the same book every time I read her books recently. So I gave it a 1 star. Am I still gonna read book 4? I think it's coming out next month. I don't know. Maybe I won't read it. I probably will, and then I'm gonna complain about it. Anyways, next up I read From Blood and Ash. So beautiful. This is actually a reread. I already read the books last year, but I kind of wanted to reread it to prepare myself for the next books. That was useless because I reread the first book and then I never reread the second book, so now I don't remember anything again. Let's skip over this one. Everyone knows From Blood and Ash. And next I read This Woven Kingdom by Tahira Mafi, which is actually not out yet. I think it's releasing next month, but I got an ARC. This Woven Kingdom is a young adult fantasy, which kind of takes place in this Persian-inspired world. I'm Persian, so I really feel like it's weird that I could connect with a fantasy book, but I did. Because, you know, some of the characters have, like, my family members' names, which you don't see in books if you're, like, POC. It's basically about this world where humans and jinns coexist, but jinns are kind of like the minority. The humans don't like them, even though they're more powerful. They have, like, speed, they can go invisible, and our main character, Elise, is a jinn, and she kind of just, like, she's just trying to survive day by day. She just, like, takes on random work so that she can survive. And there's, like, a prophecy that one day a girl is gonna destroy the kingdom, which is, like, a human kingdom. So the human prince, one day he comes across Elise, and he's like, that's suspicious. I think I gave it, like, 4.5 stars. It was really fun, and I feel like it really shows that Tahira Mafi can write fantasy. It's her first fantasy book, and her writing was just incredible. And I was like, wow, I want to write like this. And next, I read the worst book of the year. Terrible. No one is allowed to read it. So it's the Scouts Anthology, which is a dark romance anthology of many authors. I read 2 short stories, one by Penelope Douglas, who is my favorite author, and it was just not it. It was, like, the randomest story. But I'm not going to talk about Penelope Douglas' book, because that was, like, it wasn't that bad. It was medium. It was medium bad. I'm going to talk about the second story I decided to read in the anthology, which is basically about this girl who she gets kidnapped by, like, a sex trafficker. And, by the way, he's the love interest. Yeah. And he is trying to prepare her for the person who bought her. And the person who bought her wants her to act like a dog. So the sex trafficker kind of, like, trains her to be a dog. So she has to crawl. She has to eat from, like, a dog bowl. She has to pee in the grass outside the house. And I'm going to spoil the ending because I don't care. You're not allowed to read this. I don't let you read this book. At the end, he's like, oh my god, actually, I'm, like, in love with you. I let you go. You can, like, leave. And she's like, actually, now that I think about it, I kind of like being your dog. And I decided that I'm not going to read a single more story from this anthology. And then the next book that I read is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. Next, I read The Predator and the Reaper by Runix, who is the same author who wrote Gothichana, which I talked about earlier. Gothichana was better, but I still really enjoyed The Reaper and the Predator. It's basically about this girl. She is like the daughter of like a mafia dude, and she's like a computer coder, and she creates these set of codes that get stolen from her. However, these codes are like very dangerous. They could like destroy the world and destroy families, and like, I don't know, it wasn't even explained. I just knew that the codes were terrible and it would like destroy things. She has an idea of who stole the codes, which is like the son of the rival mafia family. So she goes to his mansion to kill him, but he kind of catches her, and he says that he's not the one who stole the codes. So they work together to find out who stole the codes, because, you know, he wants to find out too, because the codes could like destroy him and destroy everyone, which it wasn't even explained like what the codes would do. I thought we would get an answer, but we didn't. I guess it would have just destroyed everyone. Everything would be over. Like, I don't know. I remember I saw a review on Goodreads by like a computer coder, and they were like, this is not how codes work. I just thought that was really funny. Overall, it was like enjoyable. I read it in like a day or two. Next up was a reread I did. I reread The Risk by L. Kennedy, which is part of the Briar U series. I already read The Risk, I think 2 years ago, and I remember that I really liked it. So I was just in the mood for like a fun college sports romance. The Risk is a college sports romance. It follows Jake and Brenna, who go to different universities. Brenna goes to Briar University and Jake goes to Harvard, but the two schools are competing in ice hockey, was it? And Brenna's father is the coach to Briar U's team, while Jake is on Harvard's team, and they're against each other, so they don't like each other. But Jake is like a well-known ice hockey player, and Brenna really wants this sports broadcasting internship. She accidentally slips in the interview to get the internship that Jake is her boyfriend, because the interviewer seems like a fan of Jake's. So now she and Jake has to like fake date so that she can get her internship, kind of. Yeah, there's just something about like fake dating romance books that I really like. So the next book that I read is A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, which is, I feel like it's very popular right now in like the new adult fantasy fandom. A Touch of Darkness is a Hades and Persephone retelling. So our main character is a Greek goddess named Persephone. Listen, I don't know anything about Greek gods. I really enjoyed the first half, but the second half fell quite flat for me. Don't know if I'll be reading the second book, but it was enjoyable. I think the world was really interesting. It's like Greek gods who live in like the human world and coexist with humans. You know what? I can't explain this book. I'm sorry. I don't know anything. I don't remember anything. The last book I read, which is actually 2 books, is books 1 and 2 in the Zodiac... Oh my gosh, shut up. In the Zodiac Academy series. The only reason I read this series was because Bookish Box was doing a special edition set of the series, and I don't know, Bookish box sets are really pretty, so I wanted to read it to see if I wanted to buy it, which I'm not buying it because it's too expensive. They reviewed the price, and no thank you. I'm currently on book 3, and I'm actually really enjoying this series. Zodiac Academy is about these 2 twins in the human world. Some guy comes, and he's like, you're actually the heir to like this kingdom, and you have to follow me there. And then they arrive at this like kingdom, I don't know, this like world, and they're put in Zodiac Academy, which is it's either a university or a high school. It's a university, I think. There are these guys who are called the heirs, and they want to be the next heirs of the kingdom, not the twins. They don't like the twins, but the twins are like the rightful heir. So the twins have to study in Zodiac Academy and like master their magic so that they can rule the kingdom, but the heirs don't like them and try to like sabotage and bully them so that the twins will go back to the human world. I think it's very addicting. Like, you kind of can't stop reading. It's very like a guilty pleasure, addicting kind of book, and it's very episodic. You kind of just follow their day-to-day life of them training at the academy and getting bullied by these heirs. And the bullying is quite intense, so a little trigger warning there. But yeah, I do enjoy it. It's kind of a mess, and the writing is very not the best at all, actually. But something about it just keeps me going. Did I explain that well? No, I didn't. So that was my recap of 2021. It's interesting because I kind of like looked back at what I read and realized that 75% of the books I read were self-published. I used to read mainly traditionally published books, so the fact that I read mostly self-published books is pretty interesting, and yeah, we love to support self-published authors. From looking back at what I read, I realized that I don't read young adult fantasy anymore. I just read like new adult fantasy now, which is kind of sad. I miss reading YA. I actually am reading a YA fantasy book right now, which I will talk about someday. My Goodreads goal for 2021 was 35 books, and I read 24. So for this year, I set my challenge at just 25 books. 25. I'm gonna work really hard on draft 2 of my book, so I don't know if I'll have that much time to read. I'm hoping maybe I'll do like a writing vlog or something. Anyways, thank you for watching my 2021 reading recap, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you.